The galaxy is vast beyond mortal comprehension. Across the dark, unending void, civilizations rise and collapse like sparks in a consuming fire. The Imperium of man, locked in eternal war, stretches its broken arms across the stars. And within that dominion of fear, death, and devotion, the warp howls. It hungers. It waits, yet, let us imagine, if only as a forbidden speculation, an impossibility given flesh. What if a being from another reality, another cosmic current entirely, was torn from its origin and hurled into the grim darkness of the 41st millennium? Not a demon, not a Xenos known to the Imperium, but something else. Something ancient, diminutive, and cloaked not in ceramite or plasteel, but in wisdom. The being is Yoda, a master of the Force. A creature whose presence shaped the destinies of thousands of worlds in a distant galaxy far removed from our own. A sage, a warrior, and a paradox, small, fragile, yet burning with energies that would bewilder even the most learned savants of the Scholastica Saecana. Imagine it now. The warp tears open, a gash like a bleeding wound across the void. Through it falls a small robed figure, his hands clutching nothing but the staff he once leaned upon, his green skin wrinkled, his ears long and expressive. He lands upon the cracked soil of the dying world. Perhaps it is Cadia before the fall, or some forgotten shrine world whose cathedrals lie shattered in the dust. The planet groans beneath the weight of war, lost fire streaking across the horizon, tank hulls burning, and imperial banners torn down by heretic hands. The diminutive stranger rises, his eyes sharp, and the galaxy trembles with his arrival. For in this universe, the Force is no simple current, it is indistinguishable from the warp itself. The very air writhes around him, the unseen tides recoiling and beckoning. To Imperial scholars, he would be catalogued immediately as a psyker, perhaps even mistaken for a Xenos sorcerer. To the Inquisition, his mere existence would demand incineration. And to chaos, his soul would appear as a beacon, bright and intoxicating, a morsel that would draw the gaze of demons as blood calls to a predator. But Yoda is no common prey. He is a master, forged through 9 centuries of trial. He knows the whispers of corruption. He knows the danger of temptation. Yet this galaxy is darker, crueler, and more violent than any realm he has ever walked. He would sense the abyss before him, its tides roaring louder than any Force vision of his old domain. The warp would claw at him ceaselessly, a storm trying to twist his power, to turn his wisdom into arrogance, to make him a puppet of ruin. Visual, ancient archives flicker open, the parchment glowing with heretical diagrams of psychers consumed by demonic flame. A figure is sketched, a small alien with great ears and burning eyes. The Imperium would not welcome him. The Astra Militarum would see only a mutant, the Adeptus Astartes a potential abomination, the Ordo Xenos an alien sorcerer to be purged. But even in this crucible of hate, Yoda's path would not be simple annihilation. His strength in the Force, here transmuted into psychic mastery, would stun even the most seasoned Inquisitor. Blades of light, crafted not by loss or plasma but by his will and technology beyond comprehension, would carve through ceramite as easily as cloth. His mind would lift engines of war as if they were stones in a swamp. His foresight would pierce the hearts of generals and heretics alike, and yet, the true terror is not what Yoda might do to the Imperium. It is what the warp might do to him, for the warp does not tolerate purity without reprisal. Let us envision the moment his existence is recorded. A detachment of Imperial guardsmen stumble upon him in the aftermath of battle. They see a small figure raising a ruined Lehman Russ tank from the ashes to clear survivors trapped within. His words are strange, archaic, his voice carrying wisdom far older than the regiments that watch him. They fall to their knees, torn between awe and terror, muttering prayers to the Emperor that such a creature could even exist. Soon the Inquisition takes notice. An agent of the Ordo Xenos delivers the report, an alien psyker of great potency, unaligned, uncorrupted, yet entirely anomalous as visual, Imperial records scrawled across a slate, picked captures blurred and indistinct, showing a shadowed figure with a glowing blade. A conclave is convened in some hidden fortress monastery. Debates rage, their voices echoing beneath statues of the Emperor towering in silent judgment. Some Inquisitors argue he must be annihilated at once. No Xenos psyker can be permitted to live, lest it spread corruption. Others whisper that such a being might be a gift of the Emperor himself, a tool to turn the tide of countless wars. The Mechanicus clamors to dismantle his weapon, to tear apart its Kyber heart and learn its secret energies. The Grey Knights, they would feel the resonance of his soul, perhaps recognizing in him a strength untwisted by chaos, though alien to the Imperium's creed, but Yoda himself would not kneel. He would seek dialogue, though his words would be twisted in translation, and his intentions forever clouded by suspicion. To him, the Emperor would be sensed not as a god, but as a vast and broken echo in the warp, a being both alive and dead, luminous and shrouded. Yoda would bow his head to this tragic light, sensing in it a kindred spirit, a guardian who once bore the same burden of sacrifice, and yet, what of chaos as visual, a ruined world where the air burns with warp fire, demonic silhouettes dancing in the storms? The ruinous powers would not ignore this arrival. Sench, architect of schemes, would whisper to him, promising clarity beyond clarity, twisting his foresight into endless spirals. Khorne would roar at the purity of his combat, hungering for his fall into rage. Slaanesh would taste his serenity and crave its corruption, yearning to unbalance the calm at his heart. Nurgle would open his arms in mockery, offering eternal peace through decay. Could Yoda resist them? Yes. But resistance is not immunity. In this galaxy, even the strongest psykers fall, their wills broken across centuries of war. How long before Yoda's meditations turned to sorrow? How long before sorrow became despair? To the Imperium, he is either weapon or threat. To chaos, he is prize or rival. And to himself, he is a wanderer, forever cut from the galaxy he once knew, haunted by the memory of the Jedi Order and their fall. Visual, a desolate chamber, where Yoda sits cross-legged before a candle's flame, shadows of demons flickering on the wall. Speculation among forbidden archivists raises terrible questions. Could Yoda, master of the Force, truly walk uncorrupted through the warp? The psychers of the Imperium suffer ceaseless nightmares, their minds assailed by demonic claws. But Yoda's training in detachment, his refusal to embrace passion or hatred, could shield him longer than most. Perhaps he would endure where even Primarchs faltered, and yet, the warp is not merely hostile, it is alive. What if Yoda's power drew demons unceasingly, his every meditation echoing like a bell across the Imperium? Every battle he joined would risk summoning terrors unseen, rifts opening as his presence distorted the veil. Even his lightsaber, symbol of Jedi Order, might become a beacon for warp entities, who would twist its glow into a mockery of purity. Visual, shadowy figures in the warp, their claws reaching toward a small glowing figure floating in meditation. Theories abound. If Yoda encountered the Space Marines, would they recognize him as ally or foe? His small stature would invite mockery, but his combat mastery would silence it swiftly. Some claim he could duel even a Grey Knight and live, his blade slipping through their guard with unnatural speed. Others suggest he might guide entire chapters with his wisdom, becoming a teacher of psychic discipline that even the librarians would envy. Yet the darker speculation looms. What if Yoda fell? Imagine the warp twisting him, his voice no longer measured but distorted, every syllable echoing with hunger. His green skin blackened, his eyes burning with warp fire, his lightsaber transformed into a shrieking lance of demonic energy. A Chaos Yoda, impossibly tragic, would become a prophet of ruin, a sorcerer whose diminutive frame belied apocalyptic power. The heretical cults would follow him as a messiah, chanting in broken tongues as he raised planets into the air and crushed them like stones. Visual, a corrupted shrine, where a small, shadowed figure floats above kneeling heretics, warp lightning dancing from his hands. But perhaps the most unsettling possibility is not his corruption, but his loneliness. For this galaxy would never accept him. He would wander as an exile, a guide without students, a master without an order. The Jedi way would have no place in a universe where mercy is weakness and compassion is death. His heart would ache beneath his calm words, knowing that every kindness would be seen as heresy, every teaching as rebellion. Perhaps he would seek the Eldar. Their mastery of psychic discipline mirrors, in some ways, the Jedi's reliance on the Force. The Craftworld seers might see in him a kindred spirit, one who speaks of balance rather than excess. Yet even there, mistrust would fester. For the Eldar's arrogance is legendary, and they would not easily follow a stranger, no matter how wise. Thus, the conflict of Yoda's existence in Warhammer is not one of power, but of place. Where could such a being belong, in a galaxy that devours hope? The tale cannot be resolved neatly. for Yoda's arrival in the 41st millennium is an impossibility woven into a darker tapestry. Yet we must imagine how his story might close. He might stand upon the walls of a hive city, watching endless waves of Tyranids swarm beneath. His lightsaber hums, his hand lifts, and creatures fall by the dozens. But the tide is infinite, and he knows victory is temporary. He fights not for triumph, but for the survival of those who cannot fight. He might walk the desolate halls of a black library, speaking in riddles to harlequins who see in him an echo of the trickster Segarak. His words might be written in hidden tomes, a record of wisdom that even the Eldar cannot fully grasp. Or perhaps he would face the Inquisition's final judgment. A firing line, a world burning, and a single order purged the alien. He would close his eyes, breathe, and whisper that death is not the end. And in that instant, the warp would shudder, carrying his essence into eternity, beyond the reach of even chaos's visual, cosmic silence, a stasis chamber flickering, a small figure seated in eternal meditation. The enduring mystery remains: could Yoda change this universe, or would the universe break him? Would his presence ignite hope among the forgotten, or only draw deeper shadows from the warp? The Imperium thrives on absolutes, loyalty or heresy, life or death. But Yoda embodies the gray between, the balance that neither chaos nor the Emperor fully commands. Perhaps his greatest danger is not what he might destroy, but what he might teach, that even in the cruelest galaxy, there is another way. And so the archivists close their tomes, their quills trembling. They dare not write further, for such speculation is heresy of the highest order. Yet still, in the silence of forbidden chambers, one question lingers: if Yoda were thrown into Warhammer 40K, would he be its savior or its doom? Visual darkness consumes the screen, a faint hum of a lightsaber echoing before fading into silence. In the grim darkness of the far future, even the smallest light can cast the longest shadow.